is Jessie Cardinal, and I'm one of the organizers for the Healing Walk, and I work with Keepers of the Athabasca. And we're getting ready for the meet and greet. We're currently at Indian Beach on the Fort McMurray First Nation. Tomorrow we start the walk at about 9 o'clock, and what's happened in the past is everybody shows up on Saturday and does the walk, and nobody really knows who's who, where did you come from, you know, what are the issues your community's facing. And so this is the first year we're doing the meet and greet, and the intent of the meet and greet is so that we can all get to know each other. So we're going to have people talking, you know, people traveled from far places, so we would like them to say who they are, where they're from, the issues that they are affecting them, how they're dealing with that, so that when we start the walk at 9 tomorrow, we know each other, and then we can walk together as friends.
Hi, my name is Brent Burnstick. I'm from the Alexander First Nation, and that's in the Treaty 6 territory northwest of Edmonton, Alberta. And this is my son, George Burnstick Abraham. We are here participating in the Healing Walk because we are opposing oil and gas pipelines and tankers, and we're here in regards to protecting Mother Earth from further destruction. And with that, hi and thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ekstrom. I'm living in Sebastopol, California. I'm up here at Fort McMurray because there's actually currently a proposal to strip mine for tar sands in eastern Utah in the United States. It's a precedent-setting situation. I'm working on a film to get the word out about that issue and thought I must come to Fort McMurray to find out firsthand the impacts and what people are facing after years and years of strip mining for tar sands.
And we're here at the walk. I'm here as one of the organizers. This will be the third year we've held the walk, and I've been a part of the organizing committee all 3 years. And we're here gathered tonight to meet each other before we go on a walk. We're going to be walking 13 kilometers through the heart of tar sands destruction tomorrow, and it's a good opportunity for us to meet each other before we're sort of impacted both visually and physically by the tar sands.
My name is Roland Woodward, and I'm chairman of Keepers of the Athabasca, and we're here to promote the Healing Walk.
Hi, I'm Bruce Jackson, and I'm from Athabasca. I'm a member and participant in the Keepers of the Athabasca. Here I'm to meet people from all over the world. It's fascinating, and I'm looking forward to the walk tomorrow. These people have a heart for life, and they really want to send a message to people that we need to pay attention to what's going on.
Hello, I'm Cecile Fossack. I'm with the United Church of Canada. I work for the national office, and I am responsible to the Committee on Indigenous Justice and Residential Schools. So I am here representing the United Church and also Kairos, the Canadian Ecumenical Justice Initiatives, that in the past has supported some work of the Keepers of the Athabasca. And this summer, when the United Church of Canada meets, we'll be considering a proposal to categorically reject the Enbridge pipelines. So I'm wanting to find support here.
So this is the third annual Healing Walk. It's not a rally, it's not a protest, it's not a march. So there's not really an opportunity for groups to kind of say, well, I came from, you know, Greenpeace or whatever.
Welcome to everybody that came here today, and to all the people that are going to be here with us for this Healing Walk. This is our third one, and this is the third time we've hosted people on our land here, and I'm very proud to say that we have this space here for people to camp out while you're here for the Healing Walk. It's a good time for everybody to be together, to think about the things that are important to us, not just the money that comes in here, because it's a place that brings in a lot of money from the oil revenues. We all are concerned about what is going on with our water, with the air, with the land. So on behalf of our Chief and Council, I'd like to say thank you so much for being here. I also want to acknowledge our elders and our spiritual leaders who have come all this way to be with us today and tomorrow. So I'd like to say welcome to everybody.
Cholangiocarcinoma, very rare. Typically, you'd find one case in a population of 100,000 people. He was observing 3, 4, 5 cancers that are typically or statistically being caused by petroleum products. And as opposed to the government of Alberta or the government of Canada, who's responsible for delivery of healthcare services to First Nations communities, including my community, instead of them coming to Fort Chipewyan or suggesting to our community or to Dr. O'Connor that maybe they come there and substantiate his claims first of all, and if there was any substance to his claims, maybe assist us in finding some resolution. That action by the government of Canada essentially told us two things: that they didn't validate or find any credibility in what Dr. John O'Connor was saying, and to us residents of Fort Chipewyan, the 1,200 people, that they didn't care, perhaps, that our people were dying. I've since learned that the tar sands, which is right smack in the middle of our traditional territory, Treaty 8, is a global phenomenon. If you're here from the US, you're linked to it somehow. If you're here from BC, you're linked to it somehow. Truly what this campaign, this cause needs is an international collective voice. And I see that here today.
There's kind of a wide spectrum of people's involvement. I mean, I have family members that are close to me that are quite involved in tar sands development, either through employment or other means. And so it's really hard to want to have like a big protest in a place like Fort McMurray. So we talked about it as a group. It was Keepers of the Athabasca, some of the local organizers in Edmonton that have been working on tar sands, and we decided that a protest just didn't fit. And so we decided that a walk made more sense, to talk about the healing of the people and the healing of the land and the protections of the water. And so that's kind of how it was born. And we chose the route. The route has never changed. And so the route has been what is called the Tar Sands Loop. And up on Highway 63, you'll all get to experience it. If you've never experienced it, the Tar Sands Loop takes you through, basically, you get to drive past Fort McMurray, you get to see the lush boreal forest as it exists here, and then you basically get to what some people have called Mordor, because that's what it looks like. It's flattened land. There are like what seems like steaming piles or steaming waste, because it is toxic tailings. You get to see the big heavy haul trucks. You get to see the big refineries with flames and smoke spewing out of them. Dry tailings where there's just dry sand sort of blowing in the wind. And it's quite a very visceral landscape and can be quite emotional. And so for over the past years, as Jesse said, we hadn't had an opportunity to really meet one another. We just went for the walk. We've invited media. So we have sent out press releases and media advisories to media from across the country, and we have gotten some pretty good responses from people. So just so you know, there will be TV crews from probably almost every major news outlet. So I know CBC is coming, I believe CTV is coming, Global. We have reporters from different newspapers that will be in attendance.
You know, I think the best thing is work together, love one another, share what little you have, and wish each other good health, good safety. I said, why don't we put love and help in the pipeline of life amongst ourselves and share it with the rest of the world.
I'm looking forward to walking on this walk. I was here last year. It just makes you want to cry when you know what's happening to our Mother Earth. All the way down here from Edmonton, I was watching the trees and the medicines where we used to pick medicines. They're all burnt out.
have a great affinity for the preservation, protection, and defense of water. That people will come together like never before and push back on that agenda. And it's an incredibly powerful force that we're up against. And there's just trillions and trillions of dollars that are involved with that agenda. So the struggle is beginning to crystallize, and it's so encouraging to know that there are so many good people across this country that have decided that they need to stand up and they need to join together with all of us in order to push back on that agenda. Treasure the values that center on the integrity of the environment, and all of those values, including the principles and ideals of democracy that are being completely trampled by the Harper government.
We found out that oil spill 23 years ago still exists, that the herring haven't returned to Alaska, that the salmon runs are still in tough shape in Prince William Sound, that the shellfish are continually dying, that the economy has died. The mayor of Valdez committed suicide over this. He was so distraught. This is a non-native person. And the native people who lived on all of that fish lived a very good life in Prince William Sound. We're now diminished to depending on government to provide them with the means to sustain themselves. So we took one look at that and we said, we're not allowing that to happen in British Columbia. So Coastal First Nations, after a couple of years of deliberation, went back to Enbridge and said, hey guys, this project isn't going to happen. You are not going to bring bitumen onto the coast of British Columbia and subject our communities to the fear of a spill that would wipe out everything that we stand for. So we live on salmon and halibut and cod. We live on the water. Our people are not connected by roads. There are no roads between any of our communities. We have to get into a boat to go and visit one another. That's really what binds together the Coastal First Nations. And as First Nations across Canada, that really is what binds us. The large rivers are the arteries, and the smaller ones that flow into it are the veins that feed the land, that allow the animals to grow, and it allows the trees to grow. The largest trees in British Columbia, 250-foot cedars and fir, grow in rivers where the salmon go. If there's no salmon, there aren't big trees. The reason being that the bears and the wolves and the eagles and the ravens and the crows and everything eat the salmon. And they take it and they spread that throughout the forest and they fertilize the forest. So all of the totem poles and all of the big houses and everything that you see in British Columbia have basically come from the salmon. I heard one of the chiefs talk earlier about these people having no conscience, and that's absolutely true. There is no corporation that has a conscience. It's all about the bottom line. And there may very well be people that work there that have a conscience, but they're not allowed to use it. That's not the corporate culture. So in British Columbia, when we returned, we began to court all of the people in British Columbia. We began to inform them about what would happen if we ever allowed this pipeline to go through. If we ever allowed tankers to ply the waters of British Columbia, and we had one accident, the size of the Exxon Valdez, which is small compared to the size of tankers that are being proposed for British Columbia right now. If one of those size spills happened, it would cover British Columbia from the BC-Alaska border to Washington State. That's how big the Exxon Valdez spill was. And that would be a small spill compared to what we're looking at now. When we began to inform British Columbians, they began to realize that the economy that we have, and it is a sustainable economy, it doesn't depend on oil, it doesn't depend on gas. We have renewable forests and we have renewable fisheries. We have 30,000 jobs on the coast of British Columbia and $3 or $4 billion a year in revenue. And Enbridge is proposing to put a pipeline out there that is going to jeopardize that with one accident. So it wasn't long before we convinced 80% of British Columbians that this project shouldn't go ahead. People in Eastern Canada don't know the first thing about what we're talking about here. I've spoken on Bay Street a couple of times, and people don't even know what we're talking about. They don't even know there's a proposal.
Whatever happens here affects us up north, so we're downstream. And we always used to think that because we're so far north, the waters would never get polluted, the air would never get polluted, and so on, but not the case. We're feeling it like everyone else. And a number of years ago, our people decided unanimously that we have to oppose any expansion of the tar sands, because what's happening is, as you know, as they dig the bitumen out of the soil here, they use a great deal of water, and they use so much water that it's affecting the water basin in the north. The water's dropping, and we feel it up north. The other thing is that when they dig and make the tailings ponds, they have tailings ponds here, they leach into the water and into the environment, and that comes downstream to us. And we don't know all of the chemicals, but we know that arsenic is included in that, so it's toxic. People have to understand that, as someone said earlier, this is Treaty 8, and Treaty 8 also goes north. Part of it is in BC, part of it is here, and this wasn't BC. This was the Northwest Territories when Treaty 8 was put into place in 1900 and 1899. This was the Northwest Territories. So was what is called Saskatchewan now. So part of Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, and where I'm from, Yellowknife, is Treaty 8. So I'm a member of Treaty 8. We're the furthest northern community.
I was motivated by one of your chiefs who invited us all here as friends and neighbors. And I would like to say that I'm here as one of your friends and neighbors from Moscow, Idaho. And I came along with two of my cohorts here because I felt very strongly about this issue, and I want to take your message back to our folks in Moscow, Idaho, and see if we can get you support through education of our folks in Moscow. And hopefully, I come from the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Palouse, and we have a social action group through our church involved in the environment.
Our waters are linked to your waters, and our land is linked to your land. And although I came from a very long way away, and although I came alone, I am deeply proud and honored to stand in solidarity with you tomorrow and to walk with you. And I would like you to know that the spirit of my whole nation is here with me.
I don't know if you guys heard last year that the community right beside where my family lives, about 10 kilometers away, there was one of the biggest oil spills in Alberta's history. And it was 28,000 barrels, 4.5 million liters that basically broke from a pipeline and spilled down in through our traditional territory to overtook muskeg, went in over beaver dams, and went into an adjacent forest. And that's where people from our community hunt. And where my family was born, just 1.9 nautical miles away in Lubicon Lake. And so for that to happen, it was devastating to see the way that it affected my family. And my aunties were texting me and saying, I can't breathe, my eyes are burning, I don't know what to do. And they didn't know until 5 days later officially from the government that it was one of the biggest oil spills in Alberta's history. And it was a really hard experience to go through, because there was no emergency response plan for the community.
Really, my purpose in being here is not to just give you my support, but I need to be able to say I walked that land, and I seen that land with my own eyes. Because I've seen video clips, and I've seen flyovers, but I've never actually walked on that land. My grandma always said, Water is our most precious resource, and when she made medicines, we always had to go to a creek or a lake. And before you even take anything from that land, you have to give it a gift. And you give the Creator thanks for giving you that medicine that you're going to get. Because it's a dangerous thing sometimes, you know, you're fighting billion-dollar companies. And to be prepared. Because sometimes it's going to be a tough battle, and you have to be able to know how far you can go. And I've already told that company how far I'm willing to go. For not just me and my community, but for all the grandchildren that are yet to come from my area. Because we need to build a spider web and connect this earth again to where it needs to be. And I think a lot of times some of these companies, they scare our people, and we don't think we have the confidence in ourselves to do what we need to do. And I know when I get weary, I just came back from cultural camp with our youth, and I go back to my land and to nature, and it gives me back my strength to keep going. And I don't want to have any destruction on my territories. I don't want my little grandson to have to buy water. It's not going to be money that we can eat. It's going to be what the land produces. And I'll leave you with my grandma's quote that when we take care of Mother Earth, she will take care of us. And that's all we have to do.
And I've told people when I go to meetings, this was our farm. We didn't need to buy animals. We had all our animals. We didn't have to have the hatcheries. We had all our fish. We didn't have to have fresh air because we had our fresh air. We had our water and our rain, and then our droughts and our freezing snow. But we've had everything. Canada has everything, and our land, and I'm proud to be a Canadian. I'm also very proud to be one of the oldest people living in this reserve. I'm proud to be the mother of 9 children yet, and the grandmother of 50-some children and great-grandchildren. You can't believe from a place where you have lived and to see the place that was ruined, absolutely ruined from what you had left. And I had been so proud of my land. And there I was in ruins now. And they called it prosperity. Now we have running water, they said. We always had running water. We have light. We always had light. So why did they bring this all this and charge us for everything? In the morning, the people down Mackay, they make coffee, and there's an oil film over the coffee, and they have to drink that. They said they have to drink it fast before they could see the oil film. That's a terrible way to drink water.
The one thing that bothers me about this is that we have to go to court to fight for our identity as Indigenous peoples. We have to go to court to have a sustainable future for our youth, our nephews, our nieces, our children, our grandchildren. No other nation has to do that. You don't go up to a Jewish person and tell them you have to fight for the Torah, a Muslim tell them to fight for the Quran, Christian or Catholic and tell them to fight for the Bible. This country has always seen us as less savages. When you think about industry and development, they call us backwards First Nations. And they do this because when you convince the population that these people are less in the eyes of other Canadians, you can do anything you want to them. You can poison their waters, you can kill their people. I look at the last 20 years of development here, and what's changed. Like what's really honestly changed since like 1991. How much pollution, how big it's spread out. What freaks me out is that there's less companies 20 years ago than there are now. And I look at what is going to be done in the next 20 years. We're fast tracking to nothing but toxicity, toxic wasteland. I look at my niece, I look at my nephews, I look at what they have to inherit. In my mind, I'm already there. I'm already there 20 years. It goes by quick. And they have nothing. We've inherited the problems of our ancestors. There's unresolved issues, and one of them is land exploitation. It's been happening since colonization. It's still happening today. And we can't do anything unless we collectively come together from one side of this country to the other to try to change this. Because if we don't change it, 20 years from now, we have nothing. If we don't change where we're at right now, effectively, we are already dead. And I hear no, I hear this big no from BC, from all the Indigenous nations from out there, about this pipe that's going through. And that gives me so much pride that these people are actually standing up and fighting it. But what does industry hear? They don't hear a no. They don't hear no, we don't want your pipeline. Enbridge just released a report saying, hey, we understand you have safety concerns, and we're going to acknowledge them. And this is how we're going to acknowledge them. We know you don't want a pipeline, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to build a thicker, bigger pipeline to place through your land. It gives me hope when you guys fight, and you guys are going to fight. It's good that we gather like this. We haven't done this before. The mentality that was instilled through us from residential schools in this area was don't talk about it. But we're talking about it because we have to change the course of where we're at.
Walk to the end.
Protect our land and our water. I've traveled the world to try and talk about our water and our land, and I mainly always talk about our children and our children that are not born yet. I seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I want those trees to be standing there one day when my unborn grandchildren are born, and they will see what we see here, what we love, what we're fighting for.
my heart.